We are blessed to be joined tonight by Ryan Owens, the widow of U.S. Navy Special Operator, Senior Chief William Ryan Owens. The Bible teaches us there is no greater act of love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. Ryan laid down his life for his friends, for his country, and for our freedom, and we will never forget Ryan.
An emotional and inspiring moment last night. President Trump honoring the Navy SEAL killed in a terror raid in Yemen last month. Senator Marco Rubio, though, saying Democrats refused to stand for the Navy SEAL's widow last night. Listen.
I don't mean this about everybody. I'm sure there were a few standing and clapping, and they clapped earlier, but it was a stunning moment. We were standing up in that minute-and-a-half ovation for the widow of that Navy SEAL. I turned back around my shoulder, and I see half the room, most of them sitting down. I was just shocked by that. I noticed as soon as the speech was done, they got up and walked out. So, look, they have a right to do all that, and that's fine, but at the end of the day, last night's speech was presidential.
With me now, former Florida Congressman. He's the Executive Director of National Center for Policy Analysis. He's Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. Colonel, what did you make of Democrats Pelosi and Keith Ellison and Debbie Wasserman Schultz? What did you think of them sitting down during this?
Well, it's good to be with you, Liz. And I think what you saw last night is the basis of progressive socialism. It's a collective mindset. So obviously going into that House chamber last night for the joint session speech from the president, they had the mindset that they were not going to stand up. They were not going to clap, irregardless of whatever the president said. And so all of a sudden, when they had this moment when we should be honoring the widow of a fallen Navy SEAL who gave his life the last full measure of devotion, they continued on with the orders they have been given because they can't have any type of individual thought whatsoever.
Yeah, Colonel,
and I think that what happened... Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I think that what happened last night is that you saw a Democrat Party that truly embarrassed themselves and sticking to their playbook that they had obviously decided they were going to do and not being able to stand up for that incredible young woman who has to continue on her life without her soulmate. You know,
Colonel, MSNBC, Chris Matthews, they took it a step further. They essentially, the words were, this was a, quote, grotesque moment. Bill Maher said that the widow should not let herself be used as a prop, a political prop. Michael Moore also went after it, too, criticizing it as well. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's situational ethics. We go back to the DNC convention when you had Mr. and Mrs. Khan, who was standing on the stage, and they were talking about their son, who had been killed several years prior in Iraq. I guess that was not grotesque to have them standing there. It's this picking and choosing when they think something fits their ideology and their agenda. It's okay. But if someone else does
Colonel, you know, Chris Cuomo earlier today also was questioning the length of time of the applause. It's a woman who lost her husband. I mean,
yeah, well,
you know what? It's almost like the people are being treated like rounding errors in their ideology.
This is the trivial petulance that you see coming from the left. Instead of talking about the policies and the agenda and the direction and the vision that President Trump laid out last night, they have to find something to criticize.
But there's humanity here. There's humanity, right?
This is a lack of humanity. It is a dearth of humanity. And this is something that the American people...
I'm talking about the widow. There's humanity. She's suffering, clearly.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, but that's not important to them. What is important to them is to sit there and try to embarrass the President of the United States of America, because that's what they were told to do. And to have those women who were dressed in white to talk about women's rights, and they're sitting there, obviously women's rights are defined in a completely different way by the ladies of the progressive socialist left. They could not even find sympathy in their hearts for a woman that had just lost her husband. Yeah. Protecting them and their freedoms to sit there on their butts.
Yeah, Colonel, and you know, the real war on women is in the Middle East with radical Islamic terror, and the president used that term last night, and it's rare to hear that term used in that setting. What are your thoughts?
I think it's important to do that. If you do not define your enemy and understand their goals and objectives, you're never going to be successful. That's a basic premise that comes from Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Right. So it's about time that we have a president that does understand who the enemy is.
Colonel Allen West, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Liz.
Fox Business confirming the